For years, every single person on the most powerful pirate ship in the world looked at Marshall D. Teach and saw nothing. That was exactly what he needed them to see. Blackbeard spent years letting people disrespect him on purpose, and by the time anyone understood what he'd actually been doing, it was already over. This video isn't about his power, it's about the specific thing most people can't do. Staying completely quiet while the room gets your name wrong, because you know something the room doesn't yet. Here's the thing about being in the most powerful pirate crew in the world. You don't get there by being invisible. You get there by being dangerous, by being useful, by making sure the people above you know exactly what you're capable of. Every single person on that ship understood that you had to make your presence felt, except one. Marshall D. Teach ate and slept and moved through that ship for years, and the crew looked right past him. Now, before we go any further, there's someone else on that ship you need to know about, because the contrast between these two men is the whole argument. Portgas D. Ace, 2nd Division Commander, one of the most loved members of the crew, Firefist, Goldie Rogers' son, a fact he spent his entire life trying to outrun, trying to prove didn't define him, trying to make people see past. Ace needed the room to see him correctly. Not in a weak way, not in a needy way. In the way that someone who has spent their whole life being told they shouldn't exist starts to need proof that they do. He fought for it, visibly. Every slight registered, every dismissal got answered. He wore his identity on his face, and in his fistfights, anyone who questioned it found out immediately. You probably know that feeling. Not to Ace's degree, but the version of it that shows up in your own life. Someone gets your name wrong in a meeting. Someone takes credit for your idea. Someone talks over you and the room doesn't notice. And something in you wants to correct it. Right now, before the moment passes. That instinct isn't weakness. It's completely human. But here's what this video is going to show you. That instinct, when it fires at the wrong moment, doesn't just feel bad. It costs you something real. Something you can't get back. Because while Ace was answering every slight, Blackbeard wasn't answering any of them. Not because he didn't notice. He noticed everything. He had a plan that required years of quiet execution, and that plan had a one non-negotiable condition. Nobody could know what he was doing until it was done. So every time someone looked past him, every laugh, every dismissal, every moment the crew wrote him off as someone who would never amount to anything, he let it happen. Not because he accepted it, because he was using it. And that is a completely different thing. Here's what most people get wrong about what Blackbeard was doing. They call it patience. They say he was biding his time, waiting for his moment, keeping his head down until the conditions were right. That framing makes him sound passive, like someone who was just enduring until the door opened. That's not what was happening. Blackbeard wasn't waiting for the room to stop dismissing him. He was keeping the room dismissing him on purpose. Think about what invisibility actually does in a system built on threat assessment. If nobody considers you dangerous, nobody watches you. If nobody watches you, you can move. If you can move without anyone tracking the movement, you can set things up that nobody sees coming until it's already done. The dismissal wasn't the problem he was managing. It was the cover he was running. Look at this moment. Look at what he says to Ace on Banaro Island. He doesn't just reveal the plan, he explains it. He tells Ace exactly how long he's been executing, exactly what the years of silence were for. He had been carrying this whole time, completely alone, completely undetected, and the first person who found out was the first person he was about to hand over to the Marines. That's not patience, that's a plan with a specific shape. And now Ace. Watch this. Ace had escaped. The path was clear. Luffy was alive. In this moment, The only thing between him and survival was taking one more step forward. He turned back. Not because of a tactical error, because Akainu said something about Whitebeard, and Ace could not let it land without answering it. That one reaction, that single moment of needing to correct the room, is what kills him. Not a stronger enemy, not a failed plan, the instinct to make sure the wrong person couldn't say the wrong thing without being answered for it. But here's the harder question, and this is where it opens without answering. If Blackbeard's silence was so powerful, if the invisibility was the weapon, what does it actually take to build that? Because staying quiet when someone dismisses you isn't just a decision. Most people can't do it. Not for years. Not when the room keeps getting your name wrong and you know the truth and nobody around you does. Something had to be holding him together from the inside while the outside stayed completely still. And we haven't answered what that thing was yet. Ace reacted once. It cost him everything. Blackbeard didn't react for years. The question is how, and the answer is not what you think. There's something about Ace that most One Piece analysis gets wrong. It treats his need to be seen as a weakness, as a character flaw that got him killed. That's not the right read. Ace's need to prove himself came from somewhere real. He was Roger's son in a world that hated Roger. He built his own identity from scratch, made people love him on his own terms, became someone the most powerful crew in the world called a son. That's not weakness. That's someone who needed to know the answer to a question they'd been asking their whole life. Do I have the right to be here? And the crew kept answering yes. And it mattered every single time. Watch his face here. This is Whitebeard, the most powerful man in the world, calling Ace his son in front of everyone. Look at what that does to him. He's not performing gratitude. That landed somewhere deep, because that confirmation from that specific person in that specific way is exactly the kind of signal his whole system was built around. He needed it, and when it came, it was everything. Now hold that image. Blackbeard didn't need the crew to call him anything. Not because he didn't care about people, he clearly did. He built his own crew eventually. People who chose to follow him specifically. Connection wasn't the issue. The issue was confirmation. Here's the version of this that lives in your own life. And I want you to be honest with yourself about it. Think about the last time you did something well. Something you actually knew was good. And before you could fully settle into knowing it was good, you checked. You looked for a signal, a reaction, something from the outside that would close the loop and let you feel it properly. The signal from outside feels like proof that what you felt on the inside was actually true. Blackbeard didn't check, not because he was incapable of wanting recognition, but because he had already decided, somewhere along the way, that the plan was real, whether or not anyone around him knew it was real. That's the internal thing. That's what the years of silence were running on. Not patience, not holding it in. A picture of what was coming, so specific, so locked in, that what the room thought of him right now generally didn't matter. He already knew what was coming. Ace put everything on the surface. His love, his anger, his need, his pride, all of it visible, all of it available to be seen and responded to and confirmed. That's what made the crew love him. And that's what made him turn back. Because when you need the room to confirm who you are, the room has leverage over you. Not consciously, not deliberately, just structurally. The moment someone in the room says something that contradicts your read of yourself, something in you has to answer it. Akainu didn't beat Ace. Ace's need for the room to get it right beat Ace. And here's why that matters to you specifically. Because this isn't about pirate wars or devil fruits or the Grand Line. If your sense of where you're going depends on the people around you seeing it correctly right now, then anyone who doesn't see it has power over your next move. Power you gave them without meaning to. Blackbeard gave nobody that power for years. But before we close this out, there's an argument people always make about Blackbeard at this point. Because if he had this internal certainty, if the future was so locked in that the present didn't matter, why did he need to hand Ace over to the Marines? Why not just take the fruit and disappear? Why did he need the Warlord of the Sea title? Because the certainty wasn't arrogance. It was specific. He knew exactly what he needed and in what order. The Warlord title gave him access to Impel Down. Impel Down gave him the crew. The crew made everything after possible. He wasn't running on blind confidence. He was running on a plan precise enough that he could afford to be invisible for years because he knew exactly when the window would open. And when it did, nobody was ready because nobody had been watching. Here's what Blackbeard actually had. Not patience, not a higher tolerance for disrespect, not some rare psychological trait that most people aren't built with. He had decided what counted as evidence. Most people treat the room's reaction as evidence. If people see you correctly, that's proof the plan is real. If they don't see you, that's doubt. That's the signal to question whether you're actually on the right track. Blackbeard didn't use the room as evidence. He used the plan. The plan was either right or it wasn't. The crew's opinion of him didn't change that. The dismissals didn't change that. The years of being overlooked didn't change that. He was measuring his progress against the plan, not against the room's read of him. Look at the gap between what the crew expected from Marshal D. Teach and what actually happened. Nobody moved to stop him early. Nobody saw it coming. Nobody had updated their read of him because he had never given them a reason to. The dismissal he absorbed for years meant that when the window opened, nobody was positioned to close it. The invisibility didn't just protect the plan, it was the plan. So here's the question this video is actually asking you. What are you using as evidence right now? Because if the answer is the room, if it's the signal that tells you whether you're on the right track comes from whether the people around you currently understand what you're building, then you're not running on your plan. You're running on their permission. And permission is fragile. It changes. It gets withdrawn. It depends on people seeing something they might not be positioned to see just yet. Ace was real. His love for the crew was real. His identity was real. None of it needed the room's confirmation to be true. But he didn't know that yet. Blackbeard knew it. Not about love, not about identity, about the plan. The plan was real whether or not anyone in that room could see it. And that knowledge, that specific, unglamorous, unsexy certainty is what held him completely still for years while everything around him kept moving. Ace pushed back once. Blackbeard didn't push back for years. You already know which one of those is harder. The room's opinion of you is not evidence. Your plan is the evidence. One of those changes depending on who's watching. The other one doesn't. If that question landed, what you're using as evidence right now, there's something I want you to do before you close this video. We built a free quiz that identifies your specific anime character archetype based on how you actually operate, not how you want to operate, how you currently operate. The reason it matters after this video specifically, Blackbeard's architecture isn't everyone's starting point. Your archetype tells you exactly where your current relationship with your external validation is anchored, and what the most direct path forward looks like from there. Not from Blackbeard's starting point, from yours. Links in the description. Takes 2 minutes. He let them get his name wrong for years because he already knew what his name was going to mean. The room was never the point. Until next time, crew, under the glow of stars, we forge our future together. Captain Geo Bravo, signing off. Peace.